Tired of breaking that carbon gear on your Draco? I got a kit for you. Welcome everybody back to Just Plain Crazy. I am Brendan. Thanks for joining me again here for another episode, and you're here for one of two reasons. A, you purchased the kit already. Thank you very much, and it's time to get your Draco all fixed up. I'm going to show you how to do that. B, you're here because your Draco is broken, the landing gear is broken, and you're here to see how to fix it. I got a kit for you. I want you guys to go ahead and email landinggearfix@gmail.com. Just as it says, landinggearfix@gmail.com, landinggearfix@gmail.com. So anyway, I'm going to go through these steps and show you guys how to fix up the gear on your Draco using my support kits. With that being said, you guys saw me beating up that Draco for the last couple days at Wings Over Piper. Fabulous event. The Draco gear got punished for a couple days and it held up phenomenally. Check this out. So I got it here mounted on my bench, and as you see as I push on it, that whole gear is moving. It's not flexing there at the ends, and I'm pushing down and you don't see that side caving in either. All right, same thing here. If I lift up, boy, you really got to kind of pull to get any flex out of that thing at all. So a couple things here before we get started into this kit. Number one, I do not proclaim any warranty on these parts. These are support kits for the carbon gear. If you follow the instructions, it's going to give you a phenomenal amount of increased support to prevent damage to your Draco. This stuff will not prevent breakage under crash landing kind of conditions, and God only knows who's the judge of that bad landing, and it's not going to be me. So there is no implied warranty here. With that being said, if you're okay with having some additional support and having a good time, let's go for it. But this gear, when it breaks, wipes out shocks, it wipes out brackets, it wipes out the plastic fairings, and you're into $100 every single time that this happens. Also, because of manufacturing differences, I went through 3 different brackets, carbon support gear, and every single one of them, these holes are drilled differently in different spots on every single one. So understand your plates may not line up perfectly, and if you're okay with that, I'm going to show you how to move forward. Again, there is no returning of the plates simply because the holes don't line up. That's because whoever manufactures them for Horizon, that's where they put the blind guy, I guess, to drill holes for the day. They just don't line up. That's just the way it is. Every gear was completely different. When it comes down to these plates, these are 58 thousandths of an inch thick optical laser cut steel that's pre-bent by a professional company. These holes are drilled in the exact same spot in every single one of these. They come with nice chamfered edges. So anyway, let's get into the kit and show you guys what you got. So we started with this and we wound up with that. I think one definitely looks better than the other, don't you think? So you guys got your kit. Let's open it up and let's check out what's inside. Number one, look in the inside for goodies. There may be something in there. We'll see. But anyway, this is the bag that has all your pieces in it. On the inside, you are going to find a right and left side. Unless Brendan screwed something up majorly, they ought to be different. If you have two exactly that fit right on top of each other, that's a problem. And please do not lose the hardware. I painstakingly made sure that I counted 4 of everything as I put it in every bag. You will have 4 button head RTL fastener screws. So these are button head hex head. These are 3 mil by 10 mil in length. And then you'll have a set of self-locking nuts. You could use the other hardware again in there if you choose to, but this is better quality hardware that ain't going to strip out on you. So that's also included in there. When it comes down to the plates are pre-bent laser cut steel. These are the holes that I was talking about. They are the same on every plate. The difference is going to be in the carbon gear. Sometimes they're here, sometimes they're lower, sometimes they're here, sometimes they're over there. And we can just either open it up, or you can open up another spot here on the hole of this steel plate. That's going to be completely up to you guys which one you choose to go through. Every one will be a little different. These plates are steel, and rust can develop. So after we clean them, if you guys choose to paint them, you may do that, primer them, and paint them. Quite frankly, they are going to be completely underneath the fairing and no one's ever going to see them, so I could care less if they rust or not. To me personally, that's going to be up to you guys if you want to take it one step further. This is the version 2 gear. The benefit of the version 2 gear is that it actually sits up and supports this upper bend. When we epoxy this gear on, we do not want to epoxy past this bend up. The concept here is on this version 2 is that you still have some outward flex there, but if you go to come in, that extra movement in there will still give flex in that upper part of that joint. And if it starts to come in, we'll actually start to press on the upper part of this gear, giving it even more support. So I absolutely love this new version 2 gear. With that being said, I have an extra set right here, and it's time to get into the disassembly. Before we get started in this project, we're going to need a couple items. Number one, you need the kit from landinggearfix@gmail.com. Email me for information. Otherwise, we're going to use a 2mm hex head driver. You're going to need a Phillips screwdriver, 2 8mm wrenches, 3 and 4mm drill bit, some blue or green, preferably thread locker, potentially a Phillips screwdriver or 2. We got that. We got some slow cure epoxy. I love the Hysol epoxy. I think it's the best in the business. That's what we're going to use. We need a mixing tray. You're going to need a rag and a marker, alcohol, not the drinking kind, maybe, if that's what you prefer. Some plier assortments. You're going to need something to drink, and a screw gun and a drill. So that should get you started into this project. Let's get to it. And for you guys watching here, don't forget, hop on over to rtlfasteners.com and use the code JPC30 and save 30% on any order over $50. So they got tons of good quality hardware. I've been ordering from them for years. That's what's included in this kit, so good quality stuff. If you need anything else, screw assortments, master sets, remember JPC30, gonna save you a lot of money. So what do you say, guys, we get started in this process? So we are going to go ahead and just move our plates and our fasteners so we don't lose any of that stuff. We'll throw all that nice hardware on the side there and we will get that out of the way. Now, first thing we're gonna do is loosen up these fairings. So you're going to go ahead and take out, these are long sheet metal screws. Take that one out. We're going to take this one out. Remember the theory, first off, last in, all right? Get those out of your way. The next thing we are going to do is we are going to remove these fairing screws. I'm sorry to tell you this, the first time you take these out, you've probably ruined them, because every single time you take the screws out of these things, they seem to pull the plastic apart. I'm not super ecstatic with a lot of the way that stuff is held together here. Unfortunately, there's a lot of stress in these components, and these skirts and stuff are not very robust. It's just the way it goes. So we're going to come over here and we're going to take out the black and the silver, and they are different sizes, so make sure you guys don't get them mixed up. Otherwise, when you thread them in, you're going to strip the housings. It makes it easier too while you do this if you don't confuse the pieces on the sides. So we're going to take those skirts off, and those go over to here. Now, mine are already loosened up. You're going to go ahead and remove your axle bolts. I guess they're pivot bolts more than they are axle bolts, so we can swing that out of the way. We're going to come over here. We're going to remove this side. We're going to take that out of the way. And now what you should have are 2 loose shock brackets like that. Now I'm going to go ahead and get my screw gun, pair of pliers, and we're going to zip off those shock brackets. And again, it makes it easier if you do not confuse sides. Now that's the hardware we're going to be replacing. I don't like using Phillips screws. They just strip sooner or later. And I don't know, I hope you guys never have to take this thing apart again. So far, so good with mine. I've beat it up now for probably a good 40, 50 landings. And it's held up rather perfectly. And by the way, I've had to purchase 3 sets of gear now. And see why I hate this gear? Right there it is. Or this fastener stuff. So anyway, we'll be getting rid of that. Shock brackets are off on each side. Now at this point, you can go ahead and slide your fairings off. Fairings off there. Fairings off there. Now, let's talk about something interesting. The very first time I looked at this, I thought, man, they forgot to put a screw in here. Do yourself a favor, guys. Do not put a screw in there. Why? Because when you attach this skirt up onto there and you tighten it down, when the gear bends and flexes, it lets this thing pivot against the bottom of the plane. If you put the other screw in there and keep everything rigid, those skirts, this is what happens. That whole thing pushes back every time the gear flexes, crushes this mount, and then messes up the bottom of your plane. So, don't ask me how I know. Anyway, leave those alone. They're supposed to pivot like that on the inside. Now, we're going to remove these bushings. When you remove these inner bushings, you're probably going to need to use your 2 8mm wrenches to do that. We are not going to be reusing the inside washer. We're going to be using the outside washer and nut, and this collar. This, if you will, bushing is more what it is because it's made out of brass, will break very easily. If you over tighten this and break this, all right, you must order through Horizon this whole assembly, $20-some. This is brass. Don't over tighten it using a steel nut. I'm currently working on getting these made. So stick around, email me down the road. Maybe we'll have them, maybe we won't. We'll see how that fares out. We're going to remove this one over here on the other side. So if you need to, take your wrenches, throw them on there. Again, these things have a drop of Loctite or something on them to keep them snugged up. You do not need to make them He-Man tight. So that's it for stripping your gear. Now let's talk about what happened to your gear. Most of the time the gear splits right here at the bottom or out the sides. If you can pinch this together, clamp it together, squeeze it together, and wick this with CA, and maybe even a light smear of epoxy on it. and clamp it together until it holds and secured. That's what's being used on my Draco right now, and with the plates, it still works perfectly. So it works as long as you support it. Again, sometimes you wind up with cracks like this one that comes up the side into that bend, or just straight across here on the other side. I have lots of broken gear here, guys, and this is what I'm trying to prevent with this fix. At the price of these plates and the manufacturing and shipping costs and everything else, realistically what this comes down to is I'm happy to help spread the word with some good quality stuff, and at the end of the day I think it makes this plane much better. So anyway, it's time to get things rolling here. Now we are going to take our plates, we are going to get our rag, and let's get some alcohol rolling in here. I like tons of it. More the merrier. So we're going to clean that plate off. Again, if you don't want these plates to rust, please feel free. Light scuffing with some sandpaper. Go ahead and primer them and then paint them. But they're all hidden by plastic, and that don't worry me that much. All right. So everything's good and wiped down there. Now we're going to get a lid for our epoxy. Again, we're using Hysol Slow Cure epoxy. I truly feel it's the greatest stuff in the world. Works phenomenally. We can set that off to the side. And because it's slow cure, I don't have to worry about this stuff drying too quickly on me or getting away from me. We don't need an absolute ton of this. You just need a coating. So we can let that sit here a while. Now, let's go ahead and get our thread locker. And let's start taking a look at these plates. So that one's that side. This one's this side. And there's a couple ways to go about this. First thing, this is the most important part right there. Get that bolt in. Remember, no washer. This is that brass bushing. All right. Now you're going to go ahead and you're going to take that nut and you're going to thread this thing on. Snug that up for now. That plate, you can see maybe there's a hair spacing, but guys, look how nicely that thing is made. All right, now you can see on this one, and I'm using this gear because the plates were made to shape to that gear. So this one is going to be slightly different. So you can go about this two ways. You can go ahead and re-drill right through there and re-drill the metal, or you can go ahead and go through there and re-drill the carbon. Obviously, at that point, you may have two holes too close together. And at that point, I would elect not to go ahead and drill the carbon because of the elongated slots. So in this case, on this gear, what I'm going to opt to do is I am going to just simply re-drill holes in that plate. So you can take your Sharpie and mark those holes. Like that. We'll get the other side here installed so we can potentially do all the drilling all at one time. Again, no washer, just bushing. And I'll put that in there, put the washer on the outside. And this is just a temporary install for right now. We can get the nut to start. There we go. All right, let's go ahead and get our drill and drill bit. I'm just going to go ahead and drill right down through those. Now we're going to go ahead and take out our bushings. Again, it's probably preferred strength-wise that you drill out the metal plate more so than the carbon. And hey, you know, you may get lucky, that stuff may line up just perfectly. Now, with mine, you can feel a little bit of a sharp edge right there. Easily fixed. We're just going to get a very large drill bit and just deburr them. Super nice. Now it's time to do get some epoxy in there. I guess we'll put them right back on the right sides. If you want to, still have your alcohol. You can rub that there. Make sure you got a super clean surface. This should just make it nice so the epoxy really kind of grips hold. Again, we don't need a ton. And this is just one of those nice added touches to it. So we're gonna go ahead and get some of our Hysol. Now, remember, we're not going to epoxy from this bend up. So everything that you put in here, and I try and keep it out of those screw holes so that way it doesn't epoxy the screws into the holes. And then we're going to get all the way around that plate there. And again, remember, this thing's pretty close tolerance on those bends. So you don't need a ton of this stuff. Otherwise, you're just going to have a big gooey ice cream sandwich. All right. Now we're going to take our plate. So again, nothing from the bend up. We want that thing to have flex. Now we're going to go ahead and put that bushing through there like so. We're going to get our washer. Our washer goes on there. I'm going to take a little bit of our thread locking compound. And it's okay if you're going to go ahead and put some on there. And then it actually is perfectly fine to just dab a little bit on there so you don't get too much. You need just a little bit. And the bushing, the brass goes from the inside out. So for now, we'll just snug that up. Come over here. Again, nothing up past that crease. Get some epoxy laid in there. And this just helps to laminate that plate and give a nice surface adhesion to support that carbon everywhere in here, especially down here at this lower portion. A little piece of our blue rag stuck in there. Again, depending on how your metal plate fits, you may be lucky and not have to do any extra drilling modification, but unfortunately there's not a whole lot I can do to control that. All right, so those things are rough installed. If you're already starting to see that you got a gooey sandwich, just simply go ahead and wipe out some of that excess with your rag. Again, that's why a nice alcohol wet rag is beneficial. From here, go ahead and get your fairings installed before we start putting a bunch of stuff together. That can be slid all the way up there. That one can be slid all the way up there. All right, now we can go ahead, let's get rid of our epoxy. And now we can start to get our shock plate installed from the outside. Now that you have your skirt slid up on there, we're going to go ahead and install the RTL hardware and the side plates. So you're going to go ahead and take your 3mm by 10 screws, and we're actually going to place these the opposite direction that they came out. And that gives a little bit more room for the nuts so they're not hitting on the fairings of the gear. So we're going to slide those in like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my brackets in. Make sure that they're facing the correct direction. Hold both of those. A lot of moving pieces here all at one time to hold. And once you have those started, and get your nut driver or whatever you're going to use, your ball driver on the other end. And this is the nice part where you're not worried about stripping things and make that sandwich really tight. And since that gear is tight there, go ahead and wipe off any of that excess that may have squeezed out. We'll use our wrenches. Again, we applied a drop of Loctite. Make sure those are snugged. Again, not too tight. If you make those things too tight, guys, I guarantee you're in for 20 couple dollars plus shipping. So we got the other side there. Let's go ahead and place our plate on. There, like that. Get the nuts started. If you guys missed it earlier, if you go over to rtlfasteners.com and use the code JPC30, that will save you 30% on any order of hardware that you place that's $50 or more. So use the code JPC30. That's going to save you guys a boatload of money. And then we're going to go ahead and make sure that this axle, again, we put some Loctite on there, is snug. Do not over tighten. Do not. So that gear is on there. Now we're going to put our pivot bolts in. It's important with these pivot bolts, do not wrench these things tight. They have to be able to move. And if you make it too tight, you're going to lock the gear into place and you're going to take all that suspension travel out. And they have these weird collars on that side. and just snug and make sure it still moves. Let's put this side in. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, a beautiful day. I wish it would. Would you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor? I'm sure YouTube will probably catch on to that and I'll get dinged for it. It's probably copyrighted somewhere. This is what happens when you work all day. By the way, you go senile. You work all day, put in a lot of hours, you come home and you work on fixing stuff like this that you never have thought that you would have had any issues with. All right, so that's in. Hope you guys can see it now. Outside fairings. First things first, put that one on. Black screw up top. You guys want to be careful with these things because, again, they're I'd love to say El Fragile, but it's very easy to strip this stuff out. So put that one on, lock it into place. Put this one on. See all those little tabs in there, those little tidbits? You got to line all those up, otherwise they break. And you'll probably smack this gear around and get it to move somewhat. Probably break it anyway, but and then I have a feeling then it's either glue the stuff together or zip tie it together. But anyway, so all those little tabs line up, and then you put in the silver screw down here at the bottom, and they are different threads and different sizes. So if you put the wrong one in the wrong spot, you're going to strip the fairings out. Just FYI. Again, ask me how I know. Won't you ask me how I know? Black screw up top. Put that one in. And there you can see brand new gear is already missing one of the tabs. I mean, this stuff is just, it's just not built robust. These covers, they're just not. All right, now that stuff is there, again, you can see where the plates come up the side. That gives it that flex, so if it really tries to bend in there, see, and you could just see, I mean, there's really nothing holding that seam together on that stuff, guys. But that plate sits all the way up in there, so if that really flexes hard enough, that pushes on that upper part where it's thicker and gives you some support. So that thing fits over there like so. Just whack the camera. Take that. And then these long screws go up in the inside. Remember, these things have to pivot. They have to pivot. And this is basically what holds the whole top of this fairing and stuff together. They're just not great fitting stuff. I mean, you would think it would just be built better than what it is. You know, if you guys want, you can reverse the screws and the nuts on those plates. You know, maybe it fits better on the gear you got in front of you. I don't know. Every one of these was just vastly different as we went through it. And you would think that it would be like precision made or something. It's not. Mike Patey's Draco was precision made. And I'm not bashing anything. It's just the simple fact. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this. So again, you should have 2 of these left over. We don't need those. Those go into your saving bin. Going to get a little bit more alcohol here on the rag. This way, if I dabbed epoxy on anything. We got it all wiped off, cleaned off. And there you go, guys. So in roughly an hour, you can have yourself a pretty robust and strengthened, I mean, that stuff's pretty sturdy. I mean, that's flexing all the way up into here. So really happy with the quality of that. And there you have it, guys. That's how you install the kit. Go on over to landinggearfix@gmail.com. Email me for info if you're interested in getting a set of these plates of your own to fix your Draco up and make it more robust. With that being said, it's Brendan here at Just Plain Crazy. Hey, you guys are just plain crazy for watching. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you again immensely for your support. I can't do this stuff without you guys, and you know, reaching out, contacting me, telling me how much you love the plates would be greatly appreciated. Make sure you share all that information. So with that being said, if you liked it, smash the thumbs up button. If you didn't like it, make sure you hit that thumbs down button twice for me. Like, share, subscribe, all of that cool stuff. Hey, you guys, happy flights on that Draco. And how about sharing some of those one-wheeled roller touch and goes? Happy flights. Peace out.